Hey, in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the Spring Framework. So first off, here's the official website for Spring. It's at spring.io. So this is where you can get all the documentation for Spring. You can download Spring. You can look at some tutorials and also some getting started guides. And we'll use this website a lot during this course. So here, let's kind of drill down a bit and talk about the goals of Spring. Like, what are the goals? Well, first off, lightweight development with Java POJOs. And POJOs mean plain old Java objects. Make it much simpler to build as compared to the heavyweight EJBs from the early versions of J2EE. And then also, we want to promote loose coupling by making use of dependency of injection. So instead of hardwiring your objects together, you simply specify the wiring via a configuration file or annotations, and we'll cover that a lot in this course. And then finally, the main thing here is to minimize boilerplate Java code. So in the early days of J2EE, there's a lot of code that you had to write. And so the folks at Spring, they created a collection of helper classes to make it easier, and again, to minimize all of the boilerplate code. And we'll see some examples of that a little later in the course. Now, this is kind of the big picture here of the Spring Framework, and this is kind of like the core framework. And what I'll do is I'll actually go through these various sections here and just give you a quick overview as far as what they're about. All right, so let's go ahead and start here with the core container. So the core container is like the heartthrob, the main, I guess, the main item here of Spring. So basically, it manages how beans are created. It has a bean factory for creating the beans. It basically can read config files for setting properties and dependencies. And also the context here is really the Spring container that holds the beans in memory. And then this SPEL, that's for the Spring expression language. So it's a little language we can use within the config files to refer to other beans. And we'll see examples of that later. But that's kind of the core container for creating beans and then making those beans available. So let's move over to the AOP section. So this is where you have support for aspect-oriented programming. So basically with AOP, in a nutshell, it allows you to create these application-wide services like logging, security, transactions, instrumentation. And then you can apply these services to your objects in a declarative fashion. So no need to modify your code to have support for this. You simply add a config in the config file or an annotation, and that service will be applied to your application. And we'll see examples of this primarily when we get into some transaction work, but some other areas too. We'll play around with it a bit. So then moving forward here, let's take a look at the data access section or integration. So basically here, this is for like communicating with the database, either a relational database or a NoSQL database, and also making use of like a message queue. So in the top left, you have JDBC. Basically, Spring provides some helper classes to make it much easier to access a database using JDBC. And by using these Spring JDBC classes, you can actually reduce your source code by over 50%. So a lot of good helper classes there. The next little bullet there is ORM for object to relational mapping. This is probably the most popular section of this module here. Basically, it allows you to hook into Hibernate or hook into JPA. A lot of support and a lot of synergy between Spring and Hibernate.